it's Nisha. So a while ago I've asked you if you wanted me to do Q&A, and the most frequent questions were how I came to England and how I met Paul. And I have done a video about that long time ago, but maybe not all of you got to see it, so I thought I'd do it again. Okay, so when I was about 17, my mum went to England to visit her friend, and she met a man, and they got married. So obviously not like the next day. And they got married. They did get married pretty quickly. I don't think they would get married that quickly, but those days, that would have been in 1997. We still needed visa to come to UK, and you could only stay for so long because Poland wasn't in EU then. So, and she moved here. I wasn't left on my own. My brother and I were living, well, our great grandma lived with us all our life. She was like our second mom. So my mom always worked, and my great grandma would have looked after us. She had like a separate annex, and she just lived with us. So when my brother is 3 years younger than me, so my mom pretty quickly took my brother with her because he was underage. I wanted to stay because I wanted to finish my education, and also I was quite happy. I didn't want to move to England. Yeah, I had a good job. I had a boyfriend. You know, I didn't want to move to England. And after I finished my education, so I finished at the age almost 19. I didn't go to university. I didn't want to really. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Now I do, but those days I didn't know what I wanted to do. And also I enjoyed life a lot. I just liked partying and just going and earning money. So I got a really good job. I was a PA to a MD for a petrol oil company, and that was my first job, and I was very excited because I felt so grown up having this important job. Unfortunately, my boss was sexually harassing me basically. I could have even done the video Me Too, you know, because those days there was no such thing as HR. There was no one you could go and complain to. You just had to take it on the chin or leave. So I left because he was making real advances towards me. He was my father's age. He had a daughter my age. When I didn't respond well to his advances, he would embarrass me in front of my colleagues all the time. I remember standing at a desk doing something, and I was wearing like a skater skirt, like a flowy skirt, and he came up behind me and just lifted my skirt and laughed. And there was nothing you could say, because if you said something you get sacked, or there was no one. You probably know, if you're my age, there was no such thing as complaining to someone about sexual harassment. We just supposed to expect it and take it on the chin. So anyway, I left eventually. So I was probably about 21 when I left, and I was in a bit of a limbo. I was living a good life because my mum was sending me money from UK, so I was living life of Riley. And then my mum said to me, why don't you just come and visit, blah blah. So that was September 92. And my brother came back to Poland to visit, and he said, why don't you come back with me, and just come for Christmas. So I did. We bought a ticket, and I went in September, and I never came back. Not because I didn't want to. My mum would not let me go back, so she almost tricked me. I went there to visit. I was going to stay till Christmas. Or was I? I probably was actually going to come back for Christmas, come back to Poland. But yeah, my mum really wanted me to stay, and they've started the process with Home Office, you know, to getting me permit, to getting me indefinite stay visa and stuff like that. I hated it. When I first came to England, I hated it. I couldn't really communicate with anybody. I have learned English in Poland for 4 years because I could speak Russian very well, but English we just learned for 4 years in my senior school. And you know that type of English. It's like here you learn French at school. You couldn't go to France and have a, you know, full-on conversation with anybody. Also, I always remember this was really funny because my English teacher would be obviously Polish, so he had Polish accent, and the pronunciation was so different. And then you get here and there is so many different accents. I couldn't understand people. I remember a funny story. When I could talk a bit, you know, it took me probably 6 months to start to be able to have a reasonable conversation with people. And for example, the word water. My English teacher in Poland, with his Polish accent, he would pronounce it water. Okay? And then I get to England and someone from London would say water. And there is no way when someone taught you water to know what water meant. You know what I mean. Then I remember talking to a couple that were from up north, and you know the northern accent is totally different to the southern accent, and they were telling me about Chinese restaurant that they liked, and that their favorite meal was crispy duck. So, you know, northerners don't say duck, they say duck. And to me it sounded like a dog, and I was like, oh my god, you eat dogs? So, you know, it was funny like that. Anyway, so I didn't want to be here because obviously I've left all my friends, I've left my boyfriend, I had a great life, and I'm stuck here and I can't really communicate, and it was really, really hard. But slowly, as I started understanding people and my English was getting better, I sort of started liking it. So my mum and her husband, they had a pub. Then after about 6, so I arrived to that pub that they had at the time, which wasn't in a very nice area. It wasn't a nice place. So after about 6 months, they moved then to different city and had a pub there, which was so much nicer, and the people were really nice. And I started slowly working in a pub because obviously my English wasn't good enough then to, and remember, this is before Poland was in EU, so it was very hard for me to go out and get any job. But I still went and did my NVQs in pub management, so I am qualified to run a pub. I did that for a couple of years and I got my certificate, and my English got better, and I've started making friends, and things got much, much better. Right now, I treat England like my home. Because I feel that my adult life started here. I was so naive. I don't know about you people my age or older. When we were 19, I feel at least I was so green, I was so naive. I was probably like a 13-year-old, you know, today's 13-year-old. I think kids know and see so much more than we did. And I feel like my adult life started here. You know, I I got married, I got my first house here, I got my child. So I treat England like my home. And to be honest, I've lived here now for longer than I've lived in Poland. So I was 22 when I came here, and I will be 48 this year. So I've lived in the UK longer than I've lived in my own country. I worry that this video is going to be quite long, but I'm trying to make it as short as possible. So now let me bring you to how I met Paul. I had a boyfriend at the time. So I was working in a pub, obviously, and where the pub was situated, there was a lot of offices around. So a lot of at lunchtime, the lunchtime trade would be people from all the offices around. And okay, let me just say this. Paul at the time lived in totally different city, but he worked in a city that I live in. But it was the other side of the town. He never even knew about the pub that I worked in. He used to just come to work, go home, and that was it. So one afternoon, obviously I didn't know that at the time, but Paul told me later, one of the salesmen from Paul's office was coming back from a motorway. He was to some meeting and he was passing our pub and he saw it. So he thought, oh, I'll pop in and see what this pub is like. So he did. I obviously don't know this at that point. And apparently he went back to the office and he said, hey guys, you need to come with me to this pub and check out the barmaid. Talking about me. So I think the next day, because you know when you work in a pub every day and you have almost like a regular customer base. So the lunchtime would be all the people from offices and there will always be the same people, so you knew them. And in the evening you would get like the locals that lived around the pub. So the next day there's about 10 men rolled into the pub that I've never seen before. And I remember they were playing darts and I noticed Paul straight away. So Paul was one of them. I think Paul was 27 or 28 when I met him. And I remember saying to my mum, I said, I quite like this bloke. I said, I know he's a bit fat and bald. He wasn't fat then, but he wasn't skinny. He was a, well-built man, boy, bloke, lad. I said to her, I quite like him, but he's a bit bald and fat, but I quite like him. Anyway, so I obviously served him a few times and we started talking. He was wearing at the time this disgusting gold signet ring, like really 80s. He had like a thick band. It was like a pleated band, almost, like you get those watches, like a pleated band. I don't know if you know what I mean. And it was square and it had like 9 diamonds in it. I mean, horrific. But I suppose maybe it was in fashion then. And I said to him, oh, I said, your ring band is the same as my watch band, and we just got to chat about that and that was it. And from then on, Paul would come every day with few of his friends from work, every lunchtime. Then he started even coming after work and we would be flirting, I would say, but I was trying to play really cool, We would be flirting a lot, but Paul was engaged at that time. He was with his girlfriend for 5 years, I think. So we were just innocently flirting over the bar, and that went on for months. Well, I think from the moment we met till we got together was about 6 months. And we obviously knew that there was something between us, and Paul just thought that I was playing and toying with him, and he said to me one day that if I leave my boyfriend, he will leave his girlfriend. A bit unfair ultimatum, I know, but he explained to me that he thought that I wasn't into him, I just was playing with him. So anyway, I'm not gonna go into my relationship at the time with my boyfriend at the time, but it wasn't good. He was cheating on me, I took him back, blah blah. That's like another story. I could write a book about it, honestly. And at some point I felt strongly enough about Paul, and knowing that my relationship with the other boyfriend probably wouldn't end good and wouldn't go anywhere, I did one day just called him and finished it. I mean, it wasn't like this, believe me, it was much more dramatic than that, but like I said, there is no time to talk about it. I might do a story time about that, because that warrants its own video. So that lunchtime, Paul came in to the pub, and I said to him, I've done it. And he was like, what? I said, I finished with my boyfriend. And he was like, oh my God. I mean, he wasn't that happy in his relationship either, but I'm not going to be talking about that because that's his business. But believe me, it wasn't healthy. But anyway, fair enough. That evening after work, he drove home, he finished with his girlfriend, came back again, and that's how we got together, and the rest is a history. So yeah, it was probably almost like a love at first sight. Not love, it's lust at first sight, isn't it? He told me later that when he saw me, when he walked into the pub, he said, I'm gonna marry her. So there you go. So that's how we met. Oh, and the cute story now about, I probably told you about this ring that I have here, which has like this, oh, I'm giving you a finger, 5 diamonds. This is my eternity ring. I know it's supposed to be worn on this hand, but I didn't design it properly, and it doesn't really fit around my engagement ring. And you know, my sister, Paul's sister, made it. So the story about this ring is so special because these diamonds are the diamonds from Paul's disgusting 80s diamond signet. So when we got together, we got married and we had Max. Paul didn't wear that ring anymore because I would not allow it. We thought we have to do something with it. So what we did, we gave it to Paul's sister and we told her if she could make me eternity ring, and she made a really lovely band for Paul as well. So he's got like a gold band with a platinum inset, and he has his diamonds like set in it. So I think it's so special because that's how we met, that we started talking about his ring, and now we both have a piece of it. So yeah, so that was the story of how I came to England and how I met my husband. I hope you enjoyed it. I, for one, love those stories. Whenever I meet new couple or anybody, my first questions, well, maybe not first, but my question is always, how did you meet? I love stories about how people met because everybody meets under such different circumstances. Okay, my lovelies, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will do another video, the Q&As with the questions that I got on my Instagram very soon. So thank you again, and I see you soon. Bye.